Hey guys, it's Madison Estes. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over my top 5 mystery novels of 2023, starting with 0 Days by Ruth Ware. The story is about Jack and her husband Gabe, who are penetration specialists. I'm sorry, I've tried to film this like 6 times. I keep laughing. Anyways, that is their title. What they do is they are hired by major companies in order to try to break into their buildings and hack their systems in order to test how secure their systems are. So the book begins on a typical night for them, with Gabe at home behind the computer helping Jack as she tries to navigate the building and go through it and physically break into the building. Well, Jack gets caught by their security and has to go to a police station to explain what she was doing in the building, and whenever she gets home, she discovers that her husband Gabe has been murdered. The mystery of this novel is trying to figure out why her husband was murdered and what conspiracy was going on behind the scenes that led to his death. Another thing I really like about this novel is that the police strongly suspect that she did it because, of course, she's the wife. They have to be suspicious of her. And at one point, she thinks that they're going to arrest her, so she has to kind of break out of the police station, which is really cool getting to see her use her security skills in a real-life situation. And then she's on the run from the police for most of the novel while she's trying to investigate the mystery, so you kind of have some aspects of a thriller novel and a mystery going on at the same time. So I thought the conspiracy that she uncovers was interesting. It's not something that I've seen before, and I really enjoyed the ending, and I thought it was very satisfying. I don't really have any complaints about this novel. I do wish that it was maybe a little bit more complicated. It does seem like the conspiracy reveal happens pretty quickly, but overall I enjoyed it a lot, and I really liked the main character, Jack. I give 0 Days by Ruth Ware 3.5 out of 5 stars. Coming in at number 4 is For You and Only You by Caroline Kepnes. And the plot is like all of the other Joe Goldberg novels. He falls in love with someone, he stalks them, he starts killing people in their life in order to bring them together because it's what's best for this person that he loves, and then things go horribly wrong. I mean, they go horribly wrong when he starts killing people, but they tend to spiral and get even worse by the end of the novel. In this particular novel, he is in love with an aspiring writer, and also Joe has written his own book, which is titled Me, which is a little bit of meta humor. So this novel brings a few things that are different to the series. First of all, it has a very dark academia vibe, so if that's something that you're into, you might really like this book. I thought the pacing was excellent. Once I started reading, I really didn't want to put it down. I couldn't wait to see what was going to happen next. I only have one complaint about this novel, and it is kind of a big one, and that's the fact that the ending was a little bit anticlimactic. I'm actually underplaying it. It's very anticlimactic. It's the only drawback to this book. I honestly think that this could have been my number 1 or number 2 if it wasn't for the fact that the ending was just a little bit lackluster. Yeah, it really just didn't feel like the book ended. It kind of feels like there's going to be more chapters coming, and there is another book in the series coming, so I kind of wonder if it's going to pick up exactly where it left off, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that series. So I do want to just tell you, if you're going to read this book, to brace yourself that the ending isn't going to be great. But you know, it's one of those books that I think that you can really enjoy the journey even more than the destination. And it was still one of my most enjoyable reads this year, so I have to recommend it, and I'm definitely going to be reading the next book in the series, and hopefully it will be picking off exactly where this one ended. I give For You and Only You 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next up is The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda. The story is about a group of teenagers that survive a bus crash that kills most of their classmates and teacher, and then 1 year later, one of the survivors kills herself. After this, the other survivors make a pact that once a year they'll meet up and spend time with each other in order to be a source of comfort for each other so that they don't lose anyone else in their group. 10 years later, one of the survivors, Cassidy Bent, decides that she's done with these annual meetings and she just wants to move on with her life. She changes her number and attempts to distance herself from the other survivors, but then she gets a text message with an obituary, and it turns out one of the other people in their group has died. So she decides not to skip the annual meeting after all, and then while she's there, another member of their group disappears. There's 2 main storylines in this book. There's the present day storyline where Cassidy's investigating, trying to figure out what's happening to the people in their group. And then there are flashbacks to the past that slowly reveal what happened the night of the bus accident. This book definitely reminded me of Yellow Jackets, the way that it keeps flashing back to the past, to the site of an accident, and how, you know, they all had to try to survive and how they all kind of started turning on each other a little bit. It's just really fascinating, and I think that if you're a fan of Yellow Jackets, you'll definitely like this book. There was a lot of plot twists. I really liked the payoff to the main mystery of what was happening to the people in their group and why. And there was also another plot twist that was thrown in towards the very end that I thought was really surprising, and I enjoyed it a lot. It's the kind of plot twist that made me look at everything else that happened in the book just a little bit differently, and I love twists like that. The only criticism I have is that there are 8 survivors, which become 7 by the time the book really gets going, and I think that was just too many characters, honestly. The only thing I would have changed is I would have reduced the number of characters. I think I would have combined a few of them, and I would have made their personalities just a little bit more distinct. That's my only criticism. Other than that, I thought this novel was fantastic, and I would love to see it adapted someday. I give The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda 4.5 out of 5 stars. Coming in at number 2 is What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall. So this book is about a woman named Naomi who was attacked in the woods whenever she was a young girl. She didn't get a good look at the person that attacked her, but her best friends did, and they swear that they could identify the person that attacked her. Unfortunately, their testimony was considered tainted because they'd seen news coverage or something, so they weren't allowed to testify, and only Naomi was the one that could testify. So she testified in good faith that her friends were telling the truth, that she saw the person that attacked her, and her friends sent that man to jail. The story picks up several years later, and the serial killer has died of natural causes in jail. Soon after, Naomi gets a message from one of her best friends saying, "I have found Persephone." Immediately, Naomi freaks out and she returns to her hometown so that she can talk to her best friend about what this means. And I don't want to say any more because I don't want to spoil the twist of who Persephone is or what it all means. There's also a subplot about a podcaster that comes into town and wants to interview the girls about what happened all those years ago, and he has his suspicions about whether or not Naomi really saw what she says she saw. I thought that storyline was really interesting, and it ended up becoming one of my favorite plots of the novel. There's not a whole lot of really shocking twists in this novel. I really enjoyed it because I loved the main character, Naomi. She's definitely a very jaded character who's broken and makes lots of bad life decisions, but there's just something about her that's also really likable as well. I think it's because she's such a loyal friend. Like, she really has a lot of faith in her friends, and she does whatever she can to help them, even though she has a lot of her own problems going on. I also like the way that it was written, and I think the general premise is really interesting too. There is a little bit of a whodunit element going on in this novel, and while I did guess who did it, I did not guess their motive, and I thought that it was really interesting and compelling, and there was a lot of twist regarding exactly who did it and why. Although I did guess who did it, I had a lot of doubt because there was a lot of really good red herrings in this book. Overall, I enjoyed it a lot. I thought the ending was really satisfying. I loved the characters. I love the way this story wrapped up. I just think that it's a really good, satisfying read. I give What Lies in the Woods by Kate Alice Marshall 4.5 out of 5 stars. Before I move on to my number 1 mystery novel of the year, I do have an honorable mention. The only reason this book isn't at the top of this list is because it's a little bit more horror and sci-fi than mystery, so I wanted to include it on my top 5 horror novels instead. And that book is The Drift by C.J. Tudor. This book has 3 main plot lines. It's 3 locked room mysteries that are all interconnected. The first storyline is about a bus that crashes in the middle of a blizzard, and they have to figure out how they're going to survive the night and not die of hypothermia. The second storyline is about a group of people that wake up on a cable cart. They were drugged beforehand and they don't remember what happened to them or how they were there, and it turns out that one of them has been murdered. And the third storyline is about a group of people that are living at a ski resort, and they're doing everything that they can to keep outsiders out. And there's something very mysterious that's happening in the basement, and I won't say any more than that. I could go on and on about this novel, but I feel like the more I talk about it, the more I'm going to reveal some very interesting twists, and I don't want to do that. But I do think that this was one of the best reads of this year, and there's a lot of mystery and thriller elements in it. And it was marketed as a horror thriller, so I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? Which list am I supposed to put it on? I did end up putting it on horror because I feel like it's more horror, but I do think that most mystery readers, if you like a good locked room mystery, should check out this book. I give The Drift by C.J. Tudor 5 out of 5 stars. Now, coming in at number 1 for the best mystery novel of 2023 is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This story is about a home health caregiver named Kit who was recently suspended because someone accused her of giving her last patient too many drugs in order to help ease them out of their suffering. Which is a really nice way of saying killing them. She was accused of killing a patient. The only job that she can get is acting as a home health aide to Lenora Hope, a woman who was accused of murdering her entire family decades before. Now Lenora is in a wheelchair, completely paralyzed aside from limited mobility in one hand, which she uses to communicate with Kit. She tells Kit that she will reveal to her everything that happened that night, but like really, really slowly so that it drags out throughout the whole book. Anyway, so the story goes back and forth between Kit's point of view and Lenora's point of view, and Lenora is very, very, very slowly revealing the story of what happened that night, and apparently like months and months and months of stuff that happened before that really wasn't super necessary to get into, but Lenora likes reminiscing, I guess. I really loved the main character, Kit. She feels like such an outsider. Even in her own home, her and her dad don't get along that well. And, you know, she doesn't really seem to have a lot of friends or a social network. She has one friend who is the neighbor that she sometimes sleeps with, but she doesn't really have any deep, meaningful connections. And part of that is due to the nature of her work. She doesn't get out much because she spends most of her time in the house with the client. But, you know, you kind of get the sense that outside of work, she's not very social either. So I just felt really sorry for her because in addition to the fact that she's always kind of been an outsider, the town is sort of shutting her because of this rumor that's going around that she euthanized someone. Which of course also affects her relationship with Lenora because Lenora finds out about the rumor and it becomes a whole issue between them. And there's a lot of twists and turns in this book. I think that's probably my favorite thing about it besides the main character. I really had no idea who the culprit was. Honestly, I was constantly guessing and then constantly changing my guess. And right whenever I think, oh, I got it, I have it figured out, something wild and crazy would happen that would just change everything. There's not a whole lot of foreshadowing that leads up to the big reveal, but I did feel as though Riley Sager played fair. If you saw my book review on The House Across the Lake, you know that I did not think that that book played fair. Whenever the big twist was revealed, there was a lot of things in retrospect that didn't make sense that kind of angered me because I was like, there is no way that that would happen, so this twist doesn't make sense. I did eventually get over that and enjoy the rest of the novel, but it was a really big thing for me to have to get over because I hate it whenever a book doesn't play fair. But this book absolutely played fair. Like I said, the twist was a little bit wild. The MO was very unpredictable. I don't think that anyone's gonna guess who did it in this book unless you're just taking random guesses. I don't think that there's a whole lot of clues that you could use to figure out the ending, but that's okay because sometimes I just want to read a book where I'm not going to figure out all of the twists. There's even a couple of books on this list that I mentioned where there was a twist that I think probably surprised a lot of readers, but I just saw it coming a mile away. Maybe because I've been reading a lot of Riley Sager, I'm just used to curveballs being thrown left and right. But yeah, I didn't guess who did it in this book, and I think that most people are not going to guess. My only criticism with this novel is that I really was not a fan of the last twist, or the last chapter as a whole. I just felt like it was unnecessary. I felt like the book ended in the previous chapter, and that was a very satisfying ending, and I felt like everything that happened in the last chapter was just unnecessary. That kind of sounds like a really big complaint, like who hates the entire last chapter of a book that they claim to love, but it just felt like an epilogue that wasn't needed. And like I said, the last twist was like, oh, like it was very anticlimactic to me. Like I kind of liked the book the way that it ended before that twist was revealed. Like you could have just ended it right there and I would have been fine. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's still a really compelling novel that had so many interesting twists, and I was just completely addicted to this book. I couldn't put it down. I give The Only One Left by Riley Sager 5 out of 5 stars. So that's it. That is my top 5 mystery novels for 2023. 6 if you want to include The Drift, and I'm still not sure if I include that or not because it is more horror sci-fi, but I do think that it will definitely appeal to mystery readers as well. So take that into consideration. So I'd love to know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Also, please leave a comment below and let me know what your favorite mystery novel was this year. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and be sure to subscribe. On this channel, I post reviews, writing advice, and vlogs. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you later.